only amend I would have is I'd like a larger section for the fixins. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh.
I want to have a wide variety of sauces and shit.
Oh, I didn't know you were gonna have that big of a variety of sauces and fixins.
Yeah.
I'm down with that.
You better clean them fixins up right now.
I am never cleaning up your fixins again.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another week of Muskies on Tap. I'm your host, Gus Manty. We got a special guest on here tonight. Before I introduce him, let's introduce the other Mott members we got on here tonight, the Mott crew. Let's start with let's do a curveball. Brian, how are you doing? How you doing tonight?
Hey, I'm doing great tonight. Excited to be here. And welcome back our very special guest for the fourth time. I'll let Max introduce him here. But excited to break down his adventures in Canada. And had a good weekend watching a ton of football. And I'm currently sitting in a new desk chair, so that might be game changing for the pod. We'll see. It's a lot more comfortable on the back at least, so that's good. Still in the rehab process there. But yeah, Max, how'd your football watching go this past weekend?
Good. After I stopped crying about Jordan Love on Friday night, it was nice to sit around on Sunday, watch a little ball. But yeah, tough outing there from the Pack on Friday night. I mean, I thought there was a little bit of rust going on. Thought it was a game we could have had, and then obviously it ends with Jordan Love looking like he was going to be completely crippled for the whole entire year. So I think a collective sigh of relief across the state of Wisconsin. It looks fairly minor. He'll be back in a few weeks. So yeah, we got hopefully more good football on the way for the Packers. We got fall fishing right around the corner. Great time of year. A little chill in the air on my morning jogs, my morning walks. You can see those leaves starting to turn. It's getting to be that time of year, boys. And I mean, we just went back and looked, and when this guy was on a bunch, and it was during the fall season, so we figured, hey, we got to have him back on. He's got a bunch of new recent developments since we've had him back on last fall. It's none other than Tyler Andrews. Tyler, how are you doing tonight?
Doing pretty good, guys. It's good to be back for the fourth time on the Mott Podcast. I'm pretty happy about it.
Yes. So I'm going to start it off here. I'm a listener to your new podcast. Well, podcast chatter here. Not a Musky Podcast, hosted by yourself. You've had a great array of guests on, but I want to start with just the simple question of what kind of kicked off the idea? How'd you come up with the name? Just kind of everything that went into it, and how's it been going?
I used to do the Musky 360 podcast long time ago. That's how a lot of people know me, and I co-hosted that for a couple of years and left that venture, and then kind of branched out for a couple of years, found myself, figured out what I wanted to do, and then I've been talking about it for years and years and years, and then I finally, my buddy Kyle was like, "You just got to do it, Kyle Friedges. You just got to do it." And then I have probably gone through hundreds of names. I would send Gus some, I'd send people some. I mostly send Kyle Friedges them, and he's a pretty tough crowd to please, and be like, "That sounds absolutely stupid." And then all of a sudden I was just like, "How about something dumb like Not a Musky Podcast?" He's like, "That sounds great." And I'm like, "Bingo, there it is. There's the name."
What were some bad ones that you got that you maybe thought were good at the time, but you're glad you didn't name it?
I had something like the Laughing Muskie or something stupid like that, or like Dr. Muskie, or like just some like just weird name. Dr. Muskie. I was like, that sounds cool. And I was like,
you just trying to get a new nickname.
Yeah, I was gonna have it the Musky Guru Podcast, but quite honestly, I'm just so sick of that name. Even though that's so everyone knows me as that, it's like that's just be too on the nose. The cool thing is I can just straight up have like a deer hunting podcast, and people are like, "Well, I thought this was a Musky Podcast." Well, actually, it's not really a Musky Podcast.
Says it in the name.
Yeah, I know it's kind of a little cheeky, kind of cute. Yeah, I'm a little cute sometimes, and that's what you get.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I've been a huge fan. I think I've listened to every single episode. I
Oh,
did
thank you.
listen to
Mega
just
fan.
recently. Yeah, mega. Man, I love the podcast, the fishing podcast. They're awesome. I spend a lot of time in the car. It's ideal. So I just listen to the Fregis episode, which was great. Obviously Kyle and Victoria are awesome, but I wanted to talk to you about your conversation you had with shoot, his name is escaping me, but Bob, Dr. Bob
Clinworth.
Clinsworth.
He,
Clinsworth.
he's got a long name, so you just call him Dr. Bob.
Okay. Your conversation with Dr. Bob. You guys got into some pretty interesting stuff on that one
Wow.
regarding like musky, just kind of mortality, warm water stuff.
Mhm.
Did you receive any, not like blowback, but just other people reaching out, chatting with you about that stuff?
I won't name names, but I've actually only received like positive feedback on the Dr. Bob podcast. Only positive stuff, like people reaching out, like big level people being like, I actually really support a lot of these ideas because there's a lot of like cultist mentality, in my opinion, in some musky circles. Not everybody, but like one of the biggest things, obviously, is hot water. I think hot water
Mhm.
has an effect on muskies, but I don't think it's like this. Oh my gosh, it's 80 degrees. Every muskie you catch is instantly dead. Like I don't prescribe to that.
Right.
And I also think hot water stresses them out, so they're most likely not going to eat anyway. So, and also when the water's 80 plus degrees, it's so shitty to fish out physically. It's like, why even go? But the idea, it's like, wow, it's like 78 degrees. People, complain about. It's like, if a fish is stressed out, it's not going to eat. And then if you're a muskie angler, and you catch, 30 fish a year, you're probably killing at least one muskie a year. I mean, guaranteed one fish is dying. But
Mhm.
I mean, I had a 47 this year die on me on Lake of the Woods, and it was 73-degree water temps at its highest peak midday, and this was end of July. And it died from
Wow.
like heart attack or blood loss from its jaw. I don't know. It wasn't from hot water. Sometimes they just die.
Yeah, I think what I found really interesting is I mean you kind of hit the nail on the head with the cultist mentality. It's the thing that I guess was trying to just parcel through on this whole hot water deal for myself is like I want to be a good steward of the resource. I want to take care of the fishery. And so forever, it was just like this 80-degree line. I think it was just a very easy number, like a clean number for people to understand, like, hey, if water gets above this, don't fish. If it's below, like, okay, all systems go. And it's funny to think, like if you fished at 79 degrees compared to 80, like, is it really that big of a deal? And the thing that I started to get a little bit, not weirded out by, but almost like confused with essentially was it felt like the scale was starting to just slide and become like way too gray where, all of a sudden it went from 80 to 75. And then you had some people saying, well, I don't fish for them in over 73. And there was like no real data backing, any of these numbers or claims of like what is considered hot water. And so like
Yeah.
that stretch during the summer, it was like, I mean, damn near every time somebody uploaded a fish on Facebook, whether it was caught in fucking Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Canada, it was like water temps question mark. And it just became this kind of inside joke between us because it's like, what is like a respectable water temp to fish? Because if you're never fishing in water that's above 73, like your muskie season is going to be very, very limited, like,
Yeah.
Months.
Yeah.
like a few weeks, on the front and the
Mhm.
back ends. So I guess I appreciated like a little bit of clarity. We're not going to recap the whole podcast. Like if you
Yeah.
want to listen to it, go to his podcast and listen to it. But it was I thought it was a very refreshing conversation of a little bit more just kind of reality of like, not so much gatekeeping on Facebook and just more reality of like just two musky guys talking to each other about it. I appreciated it.
Yeah. We tried to do it as that. I mean, it makes me think of a story or think of something. There's actually a lake that I fish that kind of started my whole thought process on the hot water because whenever in like July, if it gets to about 80 degrees, every single fish in this entire tiny lake goes out to about a 30-foot hole and suspends 5 feet under the surface. And I just discovered it randomly once and I would just catch fish. And it's before I really knew what the hot water thing was. And I mean, I used to live at my cabin and I never saw a fish floating. And some people are like, well, they probably like just sank. But I mean, if I caught 3 fish a day for, almost every day when I was out there, because they're little fish, it's like, well, I probably would have seen one float, but I didn't see any float. So that's kind of where the idea, and then it stretched over time talking to people. Then I'm like, my friend Dr. Bob's a really smart guy. I should have him on to talk about the physics of all this. And I won't hash it out because I can just roll into it. But yeah, go listen to it if you really want to get into the weeds, because we talked it to death. I'll tell you that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll have to listen to that. That was one that I have not listened to, and but now I don't think you got to worry about it as well. We got some hot weather air temps coming, but I don't think that water's going to get too hot for even you 73 or below fishing guys. You guys are good to go. So, but enough maybe on that, but so it looks like Not a Musky podcast has been going very well for you, Tyler. And other than that, other than you being busy with that, you've been busy with work, and then you've also been busy with fishing. I know you've finally been
Yep.
able to get out in Canada and around your
Oh,
neck
yeah.
of the woods up there. And we kind of want to check in, see how you've
Yeah.
been doing. Maybe start with, since we haven't had you in the podcast in a while, how was the first couple times you went out? Did you go and do some exploratory missions, or did you kind of go back to your old stomping grounds that you went to go fish, when you were with like Booker, or maybe a long time
Mhm.
ago on Lake of the Woods and all that, or what were you
I
up to?
did so. I did both. So I mean, before the Canada Muskie opener opened mid-June, I went down, snuck down to Bemidji with my buddy Alex, and I actually was lucky
Oh
enough. I
yeah.
caught a 41 and a 51 and a half, and then we had the dog, and it was just a phenomenal start to the season. And then end of June, I couldn't get out to like end of June, so I went up to Lake of the Woods. I was terrible when I was fishing. I was fishing Whitefish Bay. I've never been there. It's the most clear, deepest part of Lake of the Woods. It's you could consider it a different lake pretty much, because it's gin clear. Lake of the Woods is pretty kind of dirty. It's clear dirty. I actually didn't catch any fish there, but I've sure moved some giants. It's just out there. It's like I had to learn the hard way that the only way to catch them on whitefish is to fish at night, really, or on a super cloudy day. And every time I went up there, it was like super high bright sun, and I was so tired from working the week, I didn't want to fish at night. So it's just like, well, this is what we're gonna do. And I would stay at the I did a lot of camping trips in June and July. So like there's like these tiny little parks you can go camp at and just buy, it's like $20 a day with electricity. They're not really
Nice.
located anywhere where the good fishing is on Lake of the Woods. You have to boat real far from that. Like the most I boated in one day was 70 miles. And that, dude, my tank was running low.
Did you bring extra gas or what? That is a lot.
No, nope.
No?
I
Oh,
I went like 35 miles to the very edge of my booker spots from whitefish. And then I went, holy shit, I'm at a half a tank. I better start working my way back.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Do you,
Yeah, dude,
so this is a very random question, but because I don't know boat engines very well. If you're running low on gas and you have a certain place to go, would you go full tilt, or would you knock the RPMs back to go like more fuel efficient? Like when you're on the highway, obviously going 50, 55 is more fuel efficient than going 80 with your truck.
I
Is there a
go
thing
just
to that?
eyeballs to the wall, man. I
All right.
just freaking
Get me
send
home.
it. Send it. Larry
love
and
it.
Ticer, just send it. I want to get there as fast as possible. But one trip was so far, and I don't think I caught anything, but I've done some cool, like these long excursions around these big bluffs out in Lake of the Woods. But that was my early June, and I'll just tell you, my truck was messed up, my house was messed up, so I didn't really get to fish like till end of July. And I just said, I went with my parents, and we went up to the old Booker spots. And I'll just tell everyone, listen, I've spoken about it a little bit, but Lake of the Woods has been so off this year. Every time I've gone, it's been just one heck of a tough bite. I mean, sometimes I get skunked, which is crazy thing to say in Lake of the Woods for like a 3-day trip. And then sometimes I'm like, yeah, we got one in like a 5-day trip. And when I was with my parents, I mean, we fished all the old Joe spots. We probably moved 6 fish in 5 days. And the only one I got was a 47, the one that died. And the only reason I got it is because it fouled in so late. I actually saw it on my down imaging on my trolling motor. And I just was like, that's got to be a muskie. So I started figure eighting real quick. And this fish came up and just figure eighted, 10, 15 times, and then smoked my crankbait in the figure eight. And it's just kind of like, up until August, it's been a real tough bite for a tough season, tough bite on Lake of the Woods. I fished with my buddies Cam and Alex on Lake of the Woods early August, and we ended up eking out, I think, like 3 fish or 4 fish. And that was a pretty good trip. Actually, it was a tough bite, but we were getting like 2 fish a day. And I think if we stayed for a week, we probably were on par to catch like 10, which for the conditions was pretty good. But then again, for everyone listening, Lake of the Woods has been, I don't know if it's pressure. The pressure's kind of been outrageous this year from what I used to see like 6 years ago when I last fished it. I think COVID probably did a number on it, but I mean, the walleye guides are telling me there's more muskies than there ever was, but the muskie guys are like, I can't catch any muskies. They're hard to catch. So I don't know what's going on with Lake of the Woods, but I've been kind of exploring some other lakes a little north of Lake of the Woods that I can't name. And I've been doing quite phenomenal on those. I finally caught some muskies on some new water. I had a friend of mine, Gabriel Goes, come up to fish with me and fished 2 days on this new body of water that I learned. And right off the bat, she caught a 47, caught a 30, and then I caught a 33. And then the next day, caught a 39. I caught a 48, and then caught a 39. That was just 2 days
really
of fishing. And I mean, it was incredible. And we should have had way more. Just there's opportunities like almost on every spot. And there wasn't a single musky angler until like we saw a guide. And man, I wish she caught this fish, but a 45 came screaming up at her tube right when this ranger guide boat came around a corner. I'm like, gosh, it would have been nice to smoke that fish right in front of a guide and a big ranger boat. That would have been awesome. And my tin can.
Oh yeah.
Oh dude, that feels so good when you're in the tinner and you just smoke a big one.
You still got the Lumacraft side console, right?
I do.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. She's caught a lot of big muskies, but she's got a couple more years of use in her, and then I'll probably be upgrading her because she's got a lot of hours.
Yeah.
But that's basically my whole season. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. I was just gonna say that's awesome. I'm sure we'll maybe dive into that, maybe look to see what you're upgrading. But a few things that the few things that kind of want to talk about for Lake of the Woods, because we've been hearing a lot of similar things from many, many people that the pressure is increased and the fishing has been very subpar, so to speak. Maybe, poor in some cases for some people. And do you think, pressure for sure has something to do with it? That as we see here, and I know that you've dealt with it in, Green Bay and fishing in other northern Wisconsin lakes, that puts a toll on fish. They can get educated really quickly. Those big fish learn what baits are, and about the only thing they're going to do is follow. Do you think, because I've asked some other people about Lake of the Woods, and why is it really getting that pressured? It's 1 million acres. Like, how many people can you truly put on there to actually pressure the lake? And then they're like, well, every spot I go to, there's somebody at. I'm like, well, are there other spots? And then they're, describing like a lot of it isn't good water. They've been fishing in certain areas long enough to know like what are good areas and what to look for, like the certain broken rock, the certain beaches and sand and weeds. And then all of a sudden that when it all boils down to, I've watched plenty of YouTube videos of Lake of the Woods and other people's videos. They're just, pounding these bays and rock points and stuff. And if you get enough baits over the top of those, then I could see where the pressure comes into play. But is there other things to get away from that? Are people still overlooking like deeper bars or like open water ever a factor in there? Do you think some of the fish, like how do
you
you
got,
fish
Brian?
open water?
I wanted to
What do you
get it. I
got,
was just
Brian?
about to ask Guru about this because this is one of the things that really pisses me off. And we
Yeah.
we brought it up and we were talking about it like a week or two ago. It's one of those things you see along with like Max said about, water temps question mark. Like everybody always talks about like, oh, pressure. Well, Lake of the Woods is giant. I know not all of it's great fishing, but if you look at a sample size like an Eagle River, all those lakes are, 1,000 acres and under. You have your fan favorite lakes, the chain included. And yeah, it has its up and its down years, but it gets slaughtered. The exact same spots get run through multiple boats a day. And the chains had the best last couple of years that we've seen, like this year especially. Nearby lakes that are 800-900 acres are still popping off. And like everyone who's been to Eagle River and fished and knows the lake, they fish it. So if those lakes aren't being affected by this insane pressure on a lake that has 4 spots, how is Lake of the Woods? It's hard to believe. As many muskie are up there, as few people get up there. I know it's like a touristy spot, but it's still remote Canada with, nobody living on the water. So I don't know. It's hard to believe. So I don't know. Maybe more about there only being maybe a small amount of spots and the lake really breaks down or what it is.
So a couple things. I'm not sure. I think pressure has a factor in it. I don't think it's the sole problem. I think it's a combination of problems. I don't know what else is there. It might just be the year. Some years on lakes are just, we all have it. We have a system that's really awesome, and for 2 years, and all of a sudden, it's just for whatever reason, the next year just sucks. I don't know why. The fish are doing something weird. They're lazy. I don't know. I think this weird year is kind of a weird year for Lake of the Woods. I don't know why it would be weird, but I think the fish are just kind of something's weird off with them this year. And second, it does break down. There are a lot of spots, but there's a lot of spots just aren't worth your time. When I first started muskie fishing up there, I probably wasted 95% of my time on spots that held no muskies. But as far as pressure is concerned, Lake of the Woods only receives probably about intelligent pressure. So all the pressure up there, I'd say, is intelligent, extremely intelligent. About 95% of the pressures to 98% of the pressure is highly intelligent. So like if you're going up there for a week, you're probably a pretty good stick. I know people are going up there that don't know much, but like when I see people work spots up there, I see like people working spots. Like I'm gonna go, oh, I would throw that bait. I would make that cast. I go, yeah. Like whenever I watch people fish, I can usually tell within 5-10 casts if they're intelligent or they're newbies. And I don't see too many noobs up there. If you see a noob, it's usually a guy with like one graph and he's just kind of drifting around, which I've seen that. I've seen people up there catch fish. I think it's a combination of super intelligent pressure after COVID. I think it's a weird year. I don't have the answers to why it's a weird year. Just something's off with the fish up there. Like I haven't had a single hot fish come into the 8 or anything on Lake of the Woods. I've had to like force them to eat all year. So I don't know if this is just the way they are. But there's a lot of factors. I don't think it's just the pressure, but the pressure up there, I'll tell you, is super good. Like you're competing. I mean, there's a lot of water up there, and I think there's a lot of fish on a lot of spots, but I think a lot of spots are completely worthless. Now, it makes me think of another thing. How we had success is getting out of those areas that are close to resorts. So there are remote areas on Lake of the Woods that if you look on a map, it's a 30-mile boat ride one way. And if you go to the center of this big bay, all right, 30 miles in every direction, there's a 30-mile radius. There's no lodges. That's pretty much where you're going to go, because there's a lot of guys that are have intelligence and they're really good anglers, but they don't necessarily want to drive 30 miles to go fish. Because I mean, if you got a boat like mine, you go 30 miles, 32 miles an hour max with one person. If you got 3 people in the boat, you're going to get there in about an hour and 20 minutes. So it's that's like, for example, like I know Doug and Forrest, they got, their big boats. They can go 50, 60 miles an hour. They're going out hauling 30-mile runs, to go out fish these spots where most people aren't, because no one's going to be able to get out there and the fish are less pressured. I'm not going to say exactly where, as people probably want to know where that is, because I was fishing the same area. But I mean, that's kind of what you have to do. People are always fishing close to lodges. I mean, I've caught giants next to lodges, but I mean, if you're within 15 miles of a lodge, that's going to be the most pressured area. If you're 30 miles away, it's going to be a lot less pressure. But you're going to have, that's where all the guys are going to be too. But, you know, you got to pick your poison basically.
Yeah, so that makes sense. It basically breaks down to, so is there just basically one launch then, like near these lodges? Is everybody in and out of that same area? And there's no, I mean, like if you want to go to another launch, is it like, I mean, way the hell out there somewhere?
Yeah, pretty much. Usually there's like a cluster of lodges, and each lodge has a boat launch. Like we're staying at Buena Vista, and they charge their prices for their lodge is so outrageous. It's like $30 a day, and they charge you in and out or something. Just I don't know what it is. I just know it was so outrageous. We would go down to the
Canada
public one. But I'm not trying to shit on them. We're just like, we're not paying that to launch our boat. Sorry. And
Thanks, Trudeau.
like, yeah, thanks, Trudeau. It's just like, there's all sorts of stuff like that. So people don't, like we don't want to pay that. So we're going to go drive to this other ramp that's free, and we're going to go to this one. And then, you know, that's where everyone's launching it out of, or they are staying at the Buena Vista Resort, but their boat's already in the water. And they're just like, it's not like every 10 miles there's a lodge. There's like 5 or 6 lodges within 10 miles of each other. And then you go 50 miles, there's not a freaking house. And then all of a sudden, next 10-mile radius, there's 10 lodges, 11 lodges. And then you kind of got these pockets. And the real trick is to find the area where it's the farthest distance away and go try it out and do your research. That's kind of what I had to do this year to have some success. I mean, I went out 6-7 trips, and I've probably only caught 6-7 fish. That's not really great statistics, but I really had to work for every fish, which I'm not used to on Lake of the Woods. I'm used to just going out and you're getting 2 to 3 fish a day. And just the way it is this year. The
thing that like kind of confuses me, I guess, about the pressure ordeal is like, you know, I know musky fishing has grown, you know, a good bit in the last 5 to 10 years, but like Lake of the Woods has always been there. I mean, I feel like it's always been kind of this mecca of musky fishing. It's like, you know, I'm curious as to why there's been such an uptick of people planning trips there. I mean, I don't know if it's a rippling effect of some of the larger systems in Minnesota maybe being more difficult this year or something of that nature, but like it's almost seemed like this last like couple years when we've really started to hear about this uptick in pressure at Lake of the Woods. And it's like, well, it's not like it's a newfound hot bite. I mean, people have been doing these trips for 15, 20 years, you know, with their dads, their brothers, you know, buddies, whatever. So that's the thing where I'm like, man, I wonder why all of a sudden it's like, oh, let's go to Lake of the Woods this year. It's just kind of funny to me. I don't know.
After COVID, there's a ton of job change. A lot of people, you know, either came into money or lost money. It's like, oh, I got a new job. Or, you know, I think a lot of people are realizing there's more to working in life. You get one life. It's like, just freaking go out and enjoy it. I think there's a lot of that. I mean, I see a lot of that just life right now, everyday life, people enjoying more of their lives. But I think that probably has something to do with it. I don't quite know. I mean, I know pressure is a big factor. It's just not the only factor. For example, like 3 years ago, when I moved to Minneapolis and was fishing the Metro, that was probably one of the hardest seasons I ever had. Like Metro, sure, new water, Metro's hard, whatever. But I mean, even when I went back to northern Wisconsin, I had like the toughest season I ever in northern Wisconsin 3 years ago. I just fish were just off in all my normal spots. I mean, sometimes I think there's an uptick in pressure, uptick in people going, and then this year is just bizarre on Lake of the Woods for some reason. I don't know. I've bitched and moaned about it for a very long time all season. This place sucks.
Damn.
But
so
maybe next year will be better.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. It's the same deal that happens here on a very, very small scale compared to there, where lakes turn on and off like per year. You know, we've seen that. We've hammered some fish on some small lakes that we've gone back to the past couple of years, and they just outright stink. You know, but I know big fish are still getting caught. But if you want to go fish there for 50 days straight and find the 2 days where it's going to be good, go right ahead, just go for it. That's all you. It's timing there for sure, but going to the consistent bites is how you definitely get on them. But for Lake of the Woods, or I guess really how you've branched out and found some new stuff, what's been working for you lately to get some bites? Are you on a good bucktail bite? I know you mentioned that big crankbait. I remember seeing a picture of that thing. You had that one custom painted by Conklin,
Uh-huh.
right?
Mm-hmm. Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
that thing
it's
looked pretty. The 9-inch shallow
oh
rider.
man.
Yeah,
Oh,
that thing's
she's a beaut. So
she's
Joe
a beaut,
Booker
Clark.
gave that one to me. She's a beaut, Clark. He gave me this 9-inch shallow raider. It was a Miller perch, which I'm sorry, Booker. I don't like Miller perch for whatever reason. I can't catch anything on it. But he
Sorry,
made
Booker.
it. Yeah, he made it with rattles, and not just like little dinky rattles. He put like shotgun giant ball bearings in there. It is the loudest crankbait ever made. I swear to God. I mean, you could hear it 15 feet from the boat coming in. It is so
Clink, clink, clink,
loud.
clink.
It's like, yeah, clink, 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 clink. And I'm like, I gave it to my Conklin at the Muskie battle. I was like, hey man, can you paint this for me in like a Cisco color? And this was 2 years ago. I said, I'm not sure when I'm going back to Lake of the Woods, but I know I'll catch them on this. And he painted it for me. And, you know, my comfort bait during like cold fronts is a big crankbait, especially on like big fish water. I like a big crankbait. And that's what I was moving all my fish on was that one. And I caught a 47 on it, which I sent to him and he was pretty excited about it. So I was very happy to get a fish on it for him. And it's just a sick bait. It looks amazing. But like what I'm doing right now, I can't catch a fish. I mean, I caught some fish on bucktails, but I am struggling and I'm trying to force feed fish bucktails and they just don't want it. If I'm throwing a bucktail, they just don't want it. So I've been throwing ninja tubes and 10-inch tubes. And my favorite one right now is from Team Rhino is that BMF walleye.
Mm-hmm.
It is, they are so good. I'm kicking myself. I only bought one because I caught that 48 on it. And gosh, those tubes with in the weeds is it's just fantastic. Oh my gosh. I try to find the smallest willow leaf blade I could find. So there's still movement and still a little bit of vibration, but I want the smallest ones that doesn't affect the action. I just put a nice tiny little chartreuse. I mean, it's probably no more than a half inch, maybe 3/4 of an inch, like willow blades, little bass one. It works so good. I've caught a lot of fish on that already, and I'm like welding it back together. Like survive until the next batch drops. Survive.
Hell yeah. What rig do you run? Mid or shallow or?
So I normally run mid, or not the mid. I like the hybrid. That's actually what I normally run. And
Okay.
for whatever reason, I caught a fish on the hybrid, and now no matter what I do with the hybrid rig, it like flips up on itself, and the hooks are on. Every time you rip it, it flips upside down, and the hooks come up. So I don't know. Sometimes I've had that with tube rigs. If you catch too many fish on them, they kind of, I don't know, they get a little funky on you, a little squirrely, and then you just got to buy a new one, which I don't care. I mean, it's a rubber bait. They're not going to last forever.
Right.
And so I just got to get a couple. I got to buy some more hybrids because those are my favorite because I can pop them shallow real easy and I can pop them deep real easy. I don't have to really think about it. But right now in the weeds, I've just been using the shallow. That's just all I've been doing. Because I mean, it hangs pretty nice around those weed lines and kind of around, like I like popping my tube and then like right around like a big stalk of cabbage, I kind of just pause it right there and let it fall right next to it. And then I pop it one more time. And that's, if there's a fish there, that's usually when they come out and just smoke it. And I mean, that crazy 2-day weekend that I had with Gabby, I mean, we caught everything on tubes. She caught everything on ninja tubes. I caught everything on the 10-inch monster tube. And it's just a tube bite right now. It's freaking awesome. I'll take that. I'm just happy to catch big fish.
Love it.
Yeah. When they crunch those tubes, that's a fun feeling. I mean, they can really hammer those things.
I'll tell you that the 47 she caught 8 at the boat, like right at the boat, didn't follow or nothing. It just came out of nowhere and just smoked the bait. I didn't see it, but then I saw it just corkscrew away and just take right off in the most insane torpedo maneuver I've ever seen. It was like an alligator death roll. It was crazy a fish that size to do that. And then the 48 that I caught, I mean, it just absolutely inhaled the tube. And just we could have trolled it across the lake, and that fish was never getting off. And it just was just an insane fight. And that fish also corkscrewed on me and got wrapped in the line. Oh, dude, it was just nuts. I'm like, tube bites are awesome. I mean, I caught my personal best this year, the 51.5 on a tube. So it's just kind of, I guess it's been a tube year.
All right, I got to ask you about this because I could be misremembering. It was probably on your podcast and you had Alex on, but did you guys almost not measure that fish? Do I remember that story correct? Yes. Okay, so that it was your PB, right? Ended up being your PB. How'd you not know it was a 51.5?
Was that at night or
no point would I ever catch
it was like noon.
Yeah, I'll just toss her back. We'll keep her going.
Yeah, dude. So like we were just kind of chilling and we're just, we were scoping. I mean, the bite at the time, the fish were all just out in the water. They're, 5 feet under the surface, and we were just driving around. There's one cast, doesn't do anything, whatever, move on. We're not being unethical. We're just, as much as I don't like live scope, it does have its benefits when, they're doing that. But like, so like I caught a 41 right away. I remember I texted Alex. I was like, my truck's kind of messed up, and like, can I come fish with you? Like, I'm so lonely and sad. And he's like, yeah, come fish with me. So anyway, I brought my dog down. I caught a 41 right off the bat, and we had some action. And I'm like, cool, I'm happy. I'm just happy I caught one. I'm like, cause I don't know when I'm going to get back out. My truck's screwed up, and then my house is crazy. And so then we're fishing. It's like noon or whatever. We take a break, let the dog swim, and see this fish. I take one cast at it, and this thing just like screams up, inhales the bait. I set the hook so hard, if its head wasn't on tightly, it would have came right off. Like, I set the hook so hard, a barb went through the barb went through the top plate of the muskie's mouth, like the thickest piece of the
hard part. Yeah.
Yeah. The hardest part of the muskie's mouth. I put a barb right through the top and out the top. I mean,
it's never, ever coming off there. And all you got to do is just cut the hook and it comes out the cleanest.
Yeah. That's what we had to do.
Awesome.
And so like, it was a very long fish and its head was huge, but it was skinny. So we get it in the net. We're freaking out. My dog basically almost jumps in the net. So we're looking at it. We're going, I'm like, that might be like a 46. Alex is like, maybe it's a 47. I'm like, you know what? It's probably like a 48. I'm like, I don't need to measure it. I've caught a lot of 48s, 49s. I don't care. And he's like, so I start pulling it out of the net, and he's looking at it and I'm looking at it, and Alex just goes, I'm going to get the bump board out. So I'm like pulling it out. He dips in the water, gets it out, and I just bump it. Alex is not really paying attention. He's getting the phone ready. And I'm looking at the tail as I'm kind of pushing it up onto the board, and it goes, I'll go, oh, sweet, 47. Hell yeah. Okay, 48, sweet. 49, sweet. Holy shit, a 50, my second 50. Oh my God, it's a 51.5. Holy shit, it's my PB. I'm like, Alex, look at this. He's like, what? Yeah, we almost didn't measure it. It was just, when people hear that, I get asked about that a lot. Like, you seriously didn't almost measure your PB? Yeah, because we thought it was a 48.
Okay, it brings me to my next question, because it's something that we actually talked about at length on, I don't know, a few podcasts ago after our Minnetonka tournament. And we're like, we cannot put our finger on why this is. For whatever reason, we've always just terribly underestimated the length of Minnesota fish when they're in the net. Like, every single time we've caught one, we've been like my 40 during the tournament, we're like, oh, that's a good little 37, 38 tournament kicker fish. Like, great. We put it on the bump board. We're like, oh my God, it's over 40 inches. Gus's 45.25. Like, when he took it out of the net, I'm like, oh shit, that thing's thick. Like, I couldn't even tell it was a fat fish when it went into the net. I'm like, damn, that thing is wide. And we were thinking it was like 42, maybe. We're like, that's a good fish. And he slaps it on the board. We're like, Jesus, it's 45 and a quarter. Where did this come from? And we're like,
Bonus
this is
points.
so weird because like when we net a fish in northern Wisconsin, I'm like 99 for 100 and overestimated it. Like I'm like, oh yeah, that's a 44. Put it on the bump board, 41. Oh yeah, that's 47. 45. It's like
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. Like, do you have any theory on
Head
that,
size,
or-
tail size.
It all depends on just what
Color.
you're seeing. Like, I mean, when I caught that 48 a couple weeks ago, I mean, I thought it was a 50 all day. I was like, that's over 50, 100% because of the bone structure. It was just such a thick fish. Like, I think each fish is different. Some fish are super wide. Like the one I was like, that fish is so wide, it has to be 50. It was 48. And then like the 51 and a half I caught, like it was wide, but not like wide, like you think like a big shit house, brick shit house 50 would be. It was kind of like a skinny, I mean, it was a fat fish, but it was for how long it was pretty skinny. And it just kind of throws you off. I just think they're each different with their characteristics. I mean, I'm pretty good at estimating them, but this year I've been pretty bad. I'll be honest with you. I've just been off.
Yeah. I didn't know if it was
yeah,
something to do with like the Leech Lake strain compared to the Greenie or whatever. I don't like. There would be no real like good theory on why that is. I found it funny because it's been a pattern. Like the few times we fished in Minnesota, just something we've noticed. Like, and there's just no explanation. I don't think unless somebody came and we're like, oh yeah, their jaws are actually Leech Lake strain jaws are X inches bigger, their tails are X inches bigger. Like I don't know. I don't think there's any data out there that would support that. But it's something I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I
it's
mean,
something weird.
I think we talked about it a little bit on like because they grow faster at a younger age. Maybe a same age fish in Leech Lake strain is a 40, whereas in Wisconsin it might be that cookie cutter 3-footer, which is why we're like, oh, all right, that like and Tyler was saying, I almost said freaking Andrew again. I don't know why I keep like looking at your name over there. Oh, jeez.
Kind of looks like Yazzie, doesn't he? We got a buddy named Andrew, and you guys are
Yes,
that's
it. That's
literally
it.
I think I'm taught like he's
We'll
like my
hash that
best
out.
friend from back home, and you guys are like very similar looking. So I also want to say Andrew when I see you.
It's all every time someone says Andrew, I'm like, do you even know me? I'm just kidding. It happens all the time.
I guess I don't. I guess I don't. Oh man. Okay, Guru. But no, I know. But like the bone structure maybe is the same because they're the same age, but yet they're longer or different length. I don't know. I think we maybe talked about that, but that could be interesting on why and maybe we just need to fish Minnesota more and put a couple more in the net and see a few more to make sense of it. Yeah.
This is what I wanted to bring up. I'm just trying to relook it up to it so I don't screw it up. The Wisconsin DNR posted something on Facebook the other day talking about a muskie that had a pit tag in it that they've been tracking for like 13, 14 years named Fred. And Fred's moved a few different lakes throughout his time when they've tracked him. But the craziest thing is like he's like a 13, 14-year-old fish, I think, or something like that. And he's 40 inches. 40.
Oh my
God.
Fragile
Like,
shit.
That's a long life for a muskie to go through to just grow to 41 inches.
Oh, just for us to catch him once and be like, all right, here you go. Here's the picture, and then toss him back.
I was like dying. I mean, I looked through some of the comments and no one really was like, harping on that. But like, that was the first thing I thought of. I'm like, you're talking about a 12-ish year old fish that's 40, 41 inches long. Like that's
Wisconsin genetics.
Kind of puts things into perspective a little bit on how long it, like if you catch a 45 plus inch fish in Wisconsin, like that thing's been swimming around and seeing a lot of shit in its day. Kind of crazy.
That's hilarious. I thought you were gonna say like 55.
Yeah, I did too.
It's like 41 inches.
41.
Fred's been with us for 25 years and he's grown to 38 and a half inches.
Hey, you gotta love the short kings too, guys. You gotta love the short kings too.
What lake does he live on? I don't want to go there.
It was in Hayward. It was, I think they.
Oh, good.
stocked them in. I want to say they stocked them in like Sand Lake or something, and then they found them
Oh,
in
he went up into
Poudre.
Lapoudre. That's right.
Yeah.
He went through the system.
So
Damn.
he moved three lakes in the 12 years. So he's a true adventurer.
He's been burning all of his calories. He can't grow.
I do have, so like a side note, I love teasing people with spots, but after this cast is over, guys, I do have a lake excursion intel info drop for you if you're interested in an adventure.
Always.
You know,
I have been tracking down the location of a Vilas County 54 that was verified and caught a couple of years ago, and it has taken me about 6 years to figure out where it was. And I'm like, I gotta let these guys know so you can tell me if it's like a good lake or not, if I'm full of shit. But I'm have 99% confidence I figured it out. But yeah.
nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm excited.
I mean, any lake that
Everyone's-
can support that type of genetics, I'm all for going to check out.
Well, you're gonna be shocked when I share it to you, and I go, "Really? There?" I go, "Yeah, I have some very good sources that said that's it."
You're gonna send
multiple
Gus on
sources.
a wild goose chase, and there's gonna be no
I
muskie
love
in there.
I've already been on some wild goose chases this year, and I've been blanked many times solo and seen a couple dandies that I am pumped to get back to and hopefully tie into them on better weather situations. So I'll do frickin' anything. I'm down for
Oh
whatever.
wait, hey, we'll
Hey,
cut you off
yeah,
there.
yeah, all right.
If I was
Tyler,
still living there,
I won't do
well-
anything, but I'll
I'll
go
You gotta-
on a wild goose chase.
Guess what, guys? It's right in the middle of the reservation.
Oh no.
All right,
Well,
Gus, how about him?
insurance.
What happened to the podcast? When did it return?
Just Max and I. That'd be hilarious.
Yeah, we've already talked about that. If Gus can't make a week, it's just going to be an hour straight of NFL talk, probably.
Or whatever sport is going on.
Yeah. Tyler, I did want to ask you about, so when you were out there, was it Gabby you were with? Is that her name?
Yep.
When you were out there with Gabby, so you found a couple separate lakes outside of Lake of the Woods? You guys did a little exploration out there. I've always wondered, like outside of Lake of the Woods, all those lakes around Eagle Lake. I mean, is there data on them, or are they just kind of like you go there and you just hope there's muskie, or how do you know?
You basically just read the muskie forums, and some of these muskie forums were like, I go there every year. I've only caught like a 36 incher. And then like you hear something like Booker will tell me, he's like, no, there's world records in there. I'm like, really? And then I'll go out there, and like the first time I go out there, there's like this one lake, I no shit had a 55 to a 56-inch fish do about 8 figure eights at the boat. And I pretty much vomited like right after it left because I just couldn't believe. I mean, I've netted a 55 and it was all of that and then some. It was the biggest fish I have ever seen. And I'm like, Booker was right. All right. So then I just kept coming back, and that's kind of where I took Gabby, and I'm like, I kind of figured it out. And then we just had like an insane weekend, and I'm like, this place is really good actually.
What'd you
just
move the
keep
big
blowing.
one on?
I actually moved the big one on a IC7, but it came in super lazy, and then it kind of sped up, and it's just I could barely figure eight it with a 10-foot rod because the thing was just so fat and could barely turn. So I just kept doing giant ovals and giant ovals and giant ovals, and I'm like, in my brain, I'm like, either fucking eat or go away. I'm about to throw up on you. Hurry up. And then it just went away. I'm like, I was kind of relieved. I'm like, thank God I could throw up now.
Did you
exhausting?
Did you see her again at all this summer when you've gone back up there? Or was that the only encounter you got to witness?
I did see her again, but I saw her on side imaging. I'm pretty confident it was her on side imaging because the lake I'm fishing. For some reason on this lake, the side imaging returns is better than any other lake I think on planet Earth. Like I mean, I've probably seen 60, 70 muskies on side imaging. just fire it off a cast behind me, and all of a sudden it comes in, eats, or it just comes in and shows itself. And I've seen so many now, I can kind of judge how big they are. And the side imaging turn on the same spot was like a blimp, like it was like a megalodon. It was all super long, but it was like so fat you could actually see the curve of its belly in like the shadow.
Wow.
And it was a good 30 feet from the boat. I mean, when they're that far away from the boat, if they're like 45, they still look small. This thing was gigantic. I mean, I know what kind of sturgeons look like too. I don't think it was a sturgeon. I'm pretty sure it was her. And it was just, my brain has been obsessed with her for quite a while. But, if I get a poke, hopefully I can get another poke at her. Hopefully she actually eats and I can just throw up on her in the net. That'd be a lot better.
Did you see that Devoted Outdoors video on Lock Stool, that like 75 incher?
Yep. I actually, the funny thing is they posted that video a day before I actually raised her. So when I raised her, I'm like, I actually texted them, I'm like, is this the same fish? Like, we fishing the same lake? They're like, no, it was Lock Stool or whatever. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, because that fish legit, the fish I just raised legit looked like that one.
That's insane.
God,
That's insane.
Yeah.
Was she blonde or a brunette or
she was a green dark machine.
Just really
super green. Yeah. Oh yeah, those
She's
are the
old.
best ones. Yeah. I was like, whoa. I mean, so here's my head right here, right? People listening can't see this. Its head was probably about that wide. I have a big noggin. I don't know how big this translates. That's almost 10 inches.
Not small.
I've seen people put their hands over the tops of really big fish on like their releases, and they put their hands with all their fingers closed, and there's still bone on either side of it. And
it would have
those
been
are
like
big fish.
It would have been almost 2 hands. I could tell you that. It just was so big, and it was right at the surface too. So I got just an incredible, like, I'd say everyone's doing the hands. It was probably like this, like a hand and like almost 3/4. And there would have been. I can't believe it. I'm still just blown away.
Don't get me wrong. An IC7 is a great bucktail, but what's she doing chasing around that thing when she can be hunkering down and eating some big meals whenever she wants? Was she fired up that day or what?
She must have been. I mean, I had just caught like a 44 before that, and they were just kind of on a chow. Actually, the day after I raised that fish, I went there and I hooked and lost 15 muskies in a row on
nice.
an IC7.
Pretty good.
And like at least one of them was a 50. At least. So like you'd set the hook, and as soon as you set the hook, the fish's head would come right out of the mouth and just pop out. And like I didn't release the videos because I deleted them because I was so pissed off. Like literally, I would set the hook. Here's like this nice 48 at the boat, and just pop out, and the bucktail would like fly and hit me in the chest. I go, God damn it! Just so mad, dude. They were just they're just kind of like nipping the bucktail, and I ended up having to put a stinger on. And even with a stinger, I was still losing fish. Like they would stay on for maybe 2 seconds longer, and then they would just get off. Like I had no chance to fight them. Like I'd set the hook lost. Every spot had a fish. And at the end of it, I was so like distraught and devastated. I'm like, I'm not even mad. Like all emotion left my body.
I mean, losing 15 fish is like hard to do.
Dude, it was unbelievable. Every fish in the system was just on fire. And I'm like, I can't catch a single muskie, and it's driving me nuts. And even brutal. The 44 I caught the day before, I barely got. Like it was just beak cooked. So like, I don't know if you guys have seen this, but this happens to me like every other year or every like 2 or 3 years. And it's always in August, where all of a sudden I'll have like a 2 day to 7 day event where the fish are just on fire. But no matter what I do, I cannot keep them on the bait. Like I can throw a tube, I can throw a crankbait, I could throw a bucktail, and they eat like shit. But I'm moving, double digits a day. I'm getting multiple eats a day, and they're just not staying pinned. And it's just like, that's kind of where my idea for stingers on bucktails or topwaters came about. Cause like I had a week once where I lost so many, I probably lost 20 fish in a week. And like, I'm like, I can't keep the fish off my bait, but I can't keep them on. So like, that's what I do with like a little 2-inch stinger behind it. And that works really well. But in this instance in Canada, that didn't matter at all. They were still just getting off.
Yeah. I think the closest thing we honestly have seen to that. I mean, I know Gus has had his fair share of stretches, but he's obviously on the water a lot more than Brian and I. But like, honestly, Tonka was probably the weirdest thing I've ever seen as far as how fish ate. I mean, I don't think we had 2 hooks in a single fish that we caught. Every single fish had one hook, like barely in it. I mean, and just like we had a friend, another team that's we're really good friends with, Jeremy and Trevor. Like they hooked and lost, I think, like 6 or 7 muskies during tournament hours. And most of those were confirmed eats. Like, they saw the fish, they either had them hooked for a few seconds or like swiped and barely hooked them and missed them. And like, yeah, it was just very bizarre. And like, you'd think that if a fish eats a bait, like, should be able to hook them, but it's just like sometimes apparently they eat it just a hat. I mean, you're the physics guy here. I don't know. Like, yeah, just weird. I guess I kind of losing my train of thought, but just
No, I
interesting.
mean yeah, they've been hot and nipping here. I mean, we saw that on Bender weekend. I just kind of witnessed that a little bit lately, on some solo adventures where I had even some larger and some smaller fish where you go around hot and you whip that bucktail or spinnerbait or whatever around at, Mach 10, and you see them come up and eat, but they eat it really quickly, and it almost looks like they just peck at the back and that's it. But if you set the hook, you don't get anything in there, and then they're gone because they freak out because you hooked them. And if you don't set the hook, you play the cards of them not coming back at all, and then you beating yourself up for not setting the hook, because you're hoping for a better bite. So I see how the stinger hook would definitely benefit, but if they're not even staying pinned on that thing, then I don't know how they're eating. I don't know if they are eating. They're just messing with you, I think, at that point.
Yeah, I should have just went home. The crazy thing was I caught a 45-inch northern that day, and it just inhaled the bucktail all the way back to the back of its throat, like all the way up to the blade. I'm like, gosh, dang it. And I'm like, the muskies can't eat like, yeah, the muskies won't eat like this. So I'm like, obviously it's a muskie issue. It's not my issue. I mean,
it's like when you
were
fishing a suic and you get a northern to eat a suic and it comes back and like there's a hook in the mouth, one in the top of the head, one in the tail, and it just kind of comes in as like a crumpled napkin. And you're just like, how on earth did you get 9 different hooks in
Muskie comes in with one.
Yeah, Muskie is like, oh, she's being cooked, and the northern's like, this thing's gonna die.
Yeah.
That day was a tough day, boys, but I survived. It paid off. I think the muskie gods usually like to make me suffer tremendously before I have some success. Just kind of the story of my seasons throughout my life.
You said the muskie gods. Do you believe in multiple muskie gods?
I only believe in Jesus, but there's there's some musky spirits out there, but
Gotcha.
that like to torment me quite a bit.
I hear you. We believe in them spirits too. They definitely got a weird sense of humor. They're definitely bastards. Oh,
yeah,
pretty insensitive, really.
Oh, you're the one talking.
Yeah, 2 hours on the boat. Oh, yeah.
Oh,
I wanted to ask you guys, because I spent 2 seasons on Tonka. Now, what did you think of Tonka? Like, did you like it? You're like, this is freaking weird. It sucked. Like, what were your thoughts going out there? Because I'm curious.
Do you want to start, Max, or?
Yeah, take her away, bud.
All right. Well, Max already had those couple outings on there and stuff, and I stepped foot for the first time with only basically, as we described, 2 half days. An afternoon on Wednesday and then a morning until the rules meeting on Thursday. And I was So we got blessed with weather that didn't make it great for boating, boat traffic, surfing, all that good stuff for pre-fishing and even most of day one. So with all that kind of aside, even if it was heavy pressure, I guess I'd say overall I liked it a lot. I liked the way it laid out. I think Max and I were a little rushed in our pre-fishing. We're used to usually getting 3 full days and having our program start with that. We haven't really done the whole 2 half-day thing, rush into what we like. We spent a lot of time looking at stuff where it was probably good, probably decent. Maybe if we moved our lures a little bit differently or got deeper or shallower or whatnot, could have had some stuff going. But overall, what we found and how we fished, I actually kind of liked doing. It wasn't that bad. It gave me more confidence in clear water because I overall don't fish as much clear water as most people do. Maybe not most people, because there is a lot of dirty water in northern Wisconsin. It's just what we grew up on. It gave me more confidence in it, that fish can eat in the figure eight, they can fly up. It was like pre-fishing. I caught my first leech liker, a 34, in the figure eight on a pretty clear section of the lake, but it was nice and overcast. So even though it was like gin clear and that fish probably saw us, it was, we had confidence to fish the weeds and fish a bucktail. And it felt weird at first, but seeing fish helped. Having there be a lot of fish in that system helped. And we were just happy to get bites. That was the one thing. That was the one big thing Max was telling me about beforehand. It's like, yeah, we can find fish. I don't have too much of an issue. Our confidence in finding fish is good, but getting them to bite is a different story. So, and I know that we've talked to you about that, like the first few times we had you in the podcast, we were asking about Metro water. That's what you were fishing. And that was the difficulty is getting them to bite because they like to show themselves out there.
Oh,
No doubt.
If you see them once, you better get them or you're never gonna see them again.
Yeah,
They're
that's
usually gone.
that's the thing. Yeah,
I
we saw
you
that.
know, I have definitely like a newfound respect for it. I think as far as like a pure musky fishery, obviously with the traffic out there, it makes it very, very difficult to be like a year-round fishery. Like if you were just a weekend warrior and like you were, pretty much subjected to fish Saturdays and Sundays, and Lake Minnetonka was the only lake you could fish, I could see how it would really beat you up. Like, because I've been out, when I went out there a few times prior to Gus getting down, it was mostly on, weekend days. And, and the fish aren't going and you got 6 wake boats by you, like you're just kind of like, do I really need to be here right now? Like this is kind of miserable. But I will say, I think the one, I guess two things real quick is like anytime I get to fish Minnesota waters, I'm always excited just because you have that chance at a truly giant fish. I mean, as you know, somebody who's spent most of their time fishing Wisconsin waters, like you're just not going to encounter, 48-inch plus fish a lot really at all. And anytime you step foot on a Minnesota body of water, you have that shot. And then I think too, the second part that I like about Tonka is the fact that it receives so much pressure. I think it forces you as an angler to like think outside the box and kind of get weird, do different stuff. And that's always just a fun challenge in itself. Like, would I want to do it every weekend? No. But every once in a while, like it's cool because it just, you can't just go around, fish a bunch of weed edges with a bucktail and expect to blow it up on fish out there. Like you got to be doing some different stuff. And I think that's what makes it kind of an interesting fishery. Is like, okay, how can I differentiate myself from the 15 other, boats that have probably come through the spot in the last, couple days. So I don't know what, what are
Highly
your
diverse.
what are your
Oh yeah, I was
thoughts,
I was
Tyler?
gonna say also highly diverse body of water. It's cool that you can go there and see gin clear and see dirty water on the same day driving around. It's big, but it's not too big. It's just a bunch of bays. It's just a bunch of mini lakes connected, which is kind of cool. So yeah, like Max asked, what are your thoughts on Old Tonka? Would you want to
Oh
go
boy.
back there?
Yeah, you'll
After
never
living
get me to
around
go
there?
fish that. Yeah, I will never fish it again. She's been a dirty bitch to me. I've caught some nice fish out there, but never again. Never again. I'm done.
Is it just
I
boat traffic wise, or what grinded you out there?
it's just sometimes it's hit or miss, and straight up in like from June 20th to August 9th, the muskies straight up disappear. They just poof gone. And it's just I wasted too much gas. I've spent too much time. Like when I first lived in Minneapolis, I fished every day after work because I lived almost on the water with my buddy Adam. And we literally fished every day. And for like 60 days, we didn't raise a single muskie. And we're pretty good sticks. And dude, we did not move a muskie for 60 days on Tonka and on surrounding lakes. And none of my other buddies in the group of like 10 guys moved a fish in about 60 days in metro water. Like
I probably would have sold everything.
I was almost there. It destroyed my that lake destroyed my confidence for a solid 2 years. And this year, like at the beginning of the year, I was like, I'm cursed. I suck. And then I caught a 51 and a half, and I was like, I don't suck. I'm actually kind of good.
You're back.
I'm back, baby. I'm back.
We're back, baby. And dude,
Yeah,
it's just
back.
I'm not going back to metro waters. I've had a couple asks for the tournaments we used to do on there. I'm not interested. I can't do that to myself no more.
I could see how it could stack up there pretty quickly, like on having some tough outings, and you kind of get stuck in a rut.
Yep.
I do think, Gus, like, relative to what that lake normally is, I do think we did catch it on a pretty good weather week. I mean, it wasn't fantastic by any means, but like we really kind of hit that like good stretch in August where things were cooling down a little bit. Like Gus said, we got really good conditions on that first day, and a lot of nice fish were caught. Pre-fishing, there was really good conditions the day before, and I fucked up a really big fish somehow. Another one of those weird eating things. I mean, I had him hooked for a long time, and all of a sudden, it just didn't have it hooked anymore. But I could see how that lake could drive you nuts, because even when you do get bites, it doesn't feel like they really clamp and stay pinned very easily. So it's like you got to work your ass off to get one to eat. And then when you get one to eat, it's like, well, good luck getting it in the net, because it's not going to be hooked very well. And yeah, I could see how that just would, if it starts a compound, you're like, all right, fuck this. Get me back to the 3 lakes chain.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Yeah. The metro just killed me, boys. I almost gave up musky fishing and got married and had a bunch of kids. Like I was going to take up golf. I got lucky. We might not be having this conversation right now.
Yeah.
Not a golf.
We don't be on a golf pod.
Oh boy. I made a good drive today, and I almost killed a goose.
I've been curious ever since you posted it, that video of Carbon attacking the muskie as Gabby was releasing it.
Yeah.
Is that a frequent occurrence, or has he gotten hooks in him? Or her?
It is a frequent occurrence for her. Yes, she has gotten a couple hooks in her. Does not give a shit.
Ooh.
Like my dog is just okay. I gotta backpedal here. So my dog, Carbon, is a lovely dog. She's got a lot of fucking problems because she's
a lot of personality.
She's a lot of personality. I guess that's the nice way to put it. And she's not clumsy. She just doesn't give a shit if you're in her way or something's in her way. She's just going through you or it. And nice. It just does not matter. So like my old Fraybill net that's netted hundreds of muskies, she was launched into the boat and just barreled through the net and broke the hoop in half.
Oh my God.
Whoa.
I don't even
what?
I don't even know how a human does that. She literally ran into it. She had the zoomies, she barreled into the boat on Lake of the Woods off a dock and just snapped it in half. And so I'm like trying to net fish on Lake of the Woods all weekend, and I'm like, my net's all droopy. I can't it doesn't connect no more. I have a Net Buddy net now, and it's the best net ever made. But so I gotta say that first. And then she did jump on a 50 on Lake of the Woods in the figure 8 that was gonna eat. It was absolutely gonna eat.
Oh my God.
And the dog just went Kaboom!
Is she like always just like standing next to you watching your bait come in, or what? How does she react to the fish?
She is a musky slime addict. So she's just chomping at the bit to lick musky fins and lick their faces because she just loves it. There's videos I have of her just face quivering and shaking, going da 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 because she just can't wait to lick it. So she jumped on that 50 on Lake of the Woods and scared the absolute shit out of this fish. That fish has never had anything big jump on it, and this thing like just went and jumped right out of the water. I mean, it just freaking took off. I wasn't even mad. It was so funny. But she just, so like when how you underhook your bait and then you swing it out and then you reel it up, right? When you're getting to a new spot, my dog sits below me and waits for that. And she doesn't quite take the bait, but she nips at it. She likes nipping at the baits. And I kind of secretly hope at the end of the day, she just gets one in her freaking face so she learns her lesson and then just stops bothering me about it. That's probably not going to deter her because she's a bonehead. But so anyway, that was a long leading up to, I had to describe her personality. So Gabby catches a 39 to start off the day. And so we net the fish. With the new Net Buddy net, I actually got the long handle and I got that fish because I would like really extended out on that. Otherwise we would not gotten it. And my dog's sitting there looking at it, looking in the net. She's kind of like, oh, I want to lick you. And then she literally looks at both of us and in slow motion just stands up on her hind legs and just launches like in slow motion. And she doesn't launch in the net. She launches right next to it. And I turned on the video right as she hit the water, so I didn't get her jumping. Unfortunately, it would have been amazing, but she literally just jumped right next to it. It was swimming around the net. She swam into the muskie when it was in the net, and the fish just started like freaking out. I was like, "What the hell?" And then I'm like, "Yeah, let's just get a picture." She get a picture, and there's a picture of her with the dog in the water, which is hilarious. It's just
I was laughing at that. Just I looked it up.
Dude, it's outrageous. And then like she's releasing it. Yeah, the dog's, so then Gabby's releasing it, and then the dog's swimming around the damn fish, and the fish is just, we're like, we gotta get this fish out of here. This thing's gonna never eat a bucktail or a bait again. There's no way, because that was just so dramatic.
Yeah, the fish probably went back down. Is like, you guys will never believe what just happened to me.
Yeah, dude, screw water temps stressing them out or a long fight. It's getting clawed by a lab and then they get released.
Oh, dude, it was just wild. And I got another video. We ate a watermelon or whatever, and I just chucked like half a watermelon that no one wanted to eat into the lake. And my dog saw that in a dead sleep. She just caught a glimpse of me tossing something and just catapulted off the boat and brought me back a half a watermelon to the boat. There's a video of her just swimming with a watermelon in her mouth.
That's hilarious. Sounds like a little blessing and a curse. She loves being out there, but maybe for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah. She's the blessing and a curse is actually perfectly accurate. I love her to death, but sometimes I just want to whack her with that rod. I'm like, you dumb dog, stop jumping in the water.
She'll learn the hard way.
Yeah, she it's funny. She got a hook in the foot in the pad, and it pierced her pretty good. And she went, ow. She like yelped once, bled for 5 minutes, and then just went back to being a dickhead. Like, just does not care.
A hard-headed girl.
Like the whole time in this podcast, she's just constantly bothering me. And the funny thing is, I let her outside. I played with her before the podcast, played with her for like 30-40 minutes. She got a lot of energy out. She's sleeping, and then as soon as I get on a podcast, just needs my attention all the time.
She's still around 2 years old or less than 2 years old, right?
Year and a half, yeah. So she's still
that's right. Yeah, I figured
she's just
so.
kind of a nut. She's
so
a nut
job. What fall excursions are you two gonna be going on? I mean, what's the Canadian fall fishing scene up there for you? And be getting out a lot? Is it any live bait fishing, or what do you expect coming up here in the next month or two?
I mean, if you bring Carbon out, do you get 2 rods? She can watch the sucker rod.
Should probably eat the
That'd
sucker.
be freaking nice. The OPP will definitely put me in jail for that one. They don't like Americans very much. But I'm probably gonna get out one more trip in September here. I might have a walleye trip up on Rainy Lake or something to do with some for work or whatever coming up. So I'm probably gonna get out one more time in September, probably with my dad. We're gonna do some bow hunting, and I got a lot of bucks on camera, so I'm hoping we can just smoke a big doe or smoke a big buck right off the bat and just go fishing. So I think I'm gonna go fishing one more time, and then I'm actually coming back to Wisconsin, I think second week in October, and I'm gonna do some sucker trolling. Because I would like to catch a sucker fish. I haven't caught one in a while, but there's that, and then I don't know about the rest of the season. I'm gonna try to go. There's a lake that I gotta go try that I got some intel on some very giant fish, but it's quite dangerous to get there, I guess. So I'm gonna try it. If you don't hear from me, it's Lake X got me pretty good. So
I'd say now is a better time than when it gets any colder or snowier or icier, as I've figured out. Going to new lakes, new launches when it's icy out isn't always fun.
I actually have a custom like blue water bait, those crankbaits that are real expensive, being made for me in like a distressed lake trout color. I said, dude, the lake trout in October come up shallow and they spawn, and all the giant muskies in the system, the biggest ones, come up shallow and they eat the shit out of them. Like, can you make me one where it looks like it's bleeding? So the lake I'm going to is like 400 feet deep, and there's giant lakers in there and huge muskies, like very big. So I'm going to go try that and see if I can't get one to eat that. If they're there and I find the schools, I'll probably contact the muskies. So we'll see. That's kind of how I'm going to finish out the season. And then I'm just going to get it winterized, and I don't know, Wisconsin deer hunt. Yeah. I'm excited. I'm going to finish out the muskie season with a bang, finish it for me, So
how is the hunting up by you? You said you got some bucks on camera and whatnot. Is that just like right in your backyard, or are you?
Yeah, right in my backyard.
Wow.
Nice.
I actually just checked my cams today. I got two nice 8-pointers that are actually pretty palmated. So if I see any one of them within 30 yards, they're dead. So I'm just going to let an arrow fly. You only get one deer. The bow hunting and gun hunting up here is pretty tough. There's a lot of predators.
Right.
I just happen to be close to town. So like predators really don't mess around except for bears, and bears don't really get bucks because they're a little too fast for them. So the hunting's good. It's just not that good. So I'm going to bow hunt here, try to shoot a deer, and then come back for a Wisconsin rifle, try to shoot a buck and a doe, try to get 3 in the freezer, And then I don't have to pay for meat for about a solid year, which will be nice. Deer jerky, awesome. Deer casserole. That's the way I like doing it.
Oh yeah.
You make deer burgers? Is that a thing?
Oh, buddy. Holy shit. You just opened a can of worms. We won't get into it, but I am a deer burger aficionado, addict, freaking lover of deer burgers. You have no idea. I make my own because they're fantastic.
What are you putting them in? Putting in.
Right.
Yeah, I'm a big burger guy. Big burger guy.
Big burger guys. So we gotta know
boys. So I keep it simple. You can add a whole bunch of shit and make really fancy burgers. Those are great. They're gonna turn out great. This is what I do. So I shoot a deer. I'm gonna next year I shoot. I'm turning the entire 60 pounds of meat into burgers. I'm gonna have 60 pounds of burger. And so the way I make my burgers is that I have about 30% bacon. You can't have pork belly, can't have anything else. You just get a couple packs of bacon, however many pounds you're making. You have 30% of it bacon, 70% lean venison. Cut it into cubes, send it cubes, and send it through the meat grinder. Yeah, make sure it's cold. Everything has to be cold. I even put the parts of the meat grinder in the freezer to make sure it's cold so I can make really good burger. I don't send it through twice. I only send it through once, and I do it on the roughest cut, and that works out for me. Our second roughest cut, so like the big holes like that. Nice. And then the bacon burger combination is amazing. Last year I threw up my back, so I couldn't make any burger, so I had to have someone make it for me, and it was good, but not as good as I make it because the bacon is what is the secret ingredient. I mean, hell, you can wrap shit in bacon and it probably tastes good. I mean, bacon's awesome.
Bacon is great.
Yeah. Yeah.
That sounds delicious. I'm
intrigued.
very hopeful that I can run into you this fall and beg you for that, or maybe next year if you got any left over, because that sounds very tasty.
I think if I shoot 3 deer, I'm gonna be giving a lot away. I can tell you that, guys. I think I can polish off 2. I can't polish off 3.
Yeah, I don't know if you could have your bacon burgers for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every single day, but
good. Put a little all right.
Your mic's cutting out.
God damn, yeah, totally cut.
Hold on. Let me just hold my head here. Am I good?
Yep. You're good.
Yeah, now you're good.
It doesn't like me moving. And I'm just such a movable guy. I like to prepare my burgers with a lot of crunch. So like the best way to do it is you have sourdough or rye. It complements the bacon and the leanness of the venison really, really well. You got to have romaine lettuce with the crunch. You got to get some big, fat, sassy tomatoes. Got to put some nice Amish pickles on there that got a little heat. Pickled jalapenos, raw white onions or sweet onions. I like the raw white because they're stronger. And then I usually have some mayo, some ketchup. But if I'm feel real saucy, I put a little barbecue on there.
Damn.
That is like one of the best combinations of bacon venison burger you could get.
That's got a lot going on there.
Oh, dude, my mouth is watering.
That sounds fucking incredible.
Yeah, dude.
Oh
man.
Chef Guru.
I literally make that exact burger. Well, now I'm out of venison burger, but I will make it 3-4 times a week because it's just so good.
You know what you should do,
good, dude?
For your next episode on your pod, you do like an ASMR of what you do with all the venison. And you just go deep dive into the burgers and the brats.
Mix it in the meat.
You trying to rouse me, dude?
Bacon.
You trying to get me bricked up here?
You see that? Talking about that Shane Gillis clip, dude. This shit's so funny.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Try to get me hard.
On a freaking Tuesday night, dude. Come on.
Oh my god. ASMR burger making. If you did that and you had like 43 downloads, those would be some sick puppies.
That crunchy romaine.
All right.
Oh god. All right. Let's put a bow on this one. Let's try to end with some musky chatter here. God, train of thought is so far gone at this point. Fall fishing. I think we're going to do this probably in one of our next few pods, but while we have you on, I want to ask you this. Give me your top three favorite things about fall musky fishing.
Kind of any part of it, maybe. How you
all
fish.
the way from the smells, the scenes, the fish, the whatever. Just like kind of your Mount Rushmore, if you will. I know that's 4, but just I think it's 4.
Okay.
There's 4.
So
yeah, it's 4.
Yeah.
Can I start with I like the first September cool down. That's just phenomenal fishing wise. It's always been good to me. I always catch something big. In October, I love the smells, and I do like the sucker fishing as long as it's not miserable out. The crisp air, and I guess the scenery too. The scenery is just fantastic. Northern Wisconsin, you can't beat it in fall. It's just so beautiful. Those are my top 3-4 Mount Rushmore things.
Let's go around the horn here. Might as well do it now. We're entering into the fall season. I'm gonna kick it over to you, Brian. What's your top 3 favorite things about fall musky fishing?
I mean, Guru hit the nail on the head. I'd say it's fun to be able to mix in. I'm not a big trolling guy, but I do like suckers. And it's nice that even if you're casting all day, you need to take a break. You still got the rods in there. You can kind of relax. You know that you're soaking baits. So you just kind of always have a confidence with those suckers out. I do like Saturdays and Sundays. If you're fishing where you have service, you can maybe throw up a football game in the background, maybe get
Mm.
red zone dialed up on Sunday. Kind of, you're kind of
Wow.
doing two sports at once.
Gambling
Yeah.
and fishing.
Do what?
I said gambling and fishing.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, you got a lot at risk. So that's always good. Keeps the heart pumping. Yeah, I don't know. How about you, Max? Anything else?
Let's say top three things about fall fishing is that first buzz from the sucker rod. I think
Mm,
that's one of the coolest feelings or sounds, just because it's like you've been waiting all year to throw some suckers down, and then you get that first one that eats. And the coolest thing about sucker fishing is like you never know what's on the other end of that line, like because
Until
there's
you
always
set
that
the hook.
like 30 to 40-second buildup, or maybe less sometimes, but like that buildup of anticipation. Um, yeah, I mean, anytime you get those like October kind of hazy days with like low wind, all the colors just totally pop. Um, I don't know. Those are just the best days to be out on the water. And then I would say like being able to drink some heartier beer out on the boat, like having a good amber beer doesn't really hit the same during the middle of summer as like when you're fall, you're bundled up, you're out on the
Mm.
boat, you're cold, being able to drink some good hearty beer out there. So yeah, I don't know, probably a few good things about fall fishing.
Nice. I think I don't I think it might have been either Tyler or Brian. I think Tyler, you said it. One I'm gonna steal is the crispness of the air.
Mhm.
Yeah.
When it starts to cool off and like how clean it is. I love that part of fall. Just going outside and waking up and just it kind of just I don't know, wakes you up, gets you going. I don't know. It gets me really pumped up. Another one is, well, all you guys have said a lot of things I love about fall, but one is not to be like bougie or basic, but the sunsets in the fall hit different because the sun is just so low in the sky all day. When it starts to like fall over the treetops, and you get one of those days that's like not super sunny, a little bit of clouds, a good amount of clouds, and you can see like the line of the sun along the trees, and you see like the lower half is dark, and then the tops of the trees look like they're on fire from the sun and they're in full color. That combo right there is like my
that's
favorite. I
nice.
don't know if I've ever taken a picture of that, but I always just stare at it because it's awesome. And then the third is when you do land a fish, when they do decide to bite, they're nice and plump and round and extra heavy, and can't beat that. Hard to beat, and catching, similar size fish that you do the whole rest of the year, but they're always that little bit heavier makes it kind of cool.
Hmm.
And they're always clean usually by that time of year. A lot of their blemishes and stuff are healed over, and they're just gorgeous looking fish. I don't know. Fall's awesome. I love
I think
fall.
I think I left out my third, but I just thought my third would definitely be being able to wear those insulated bibs. I love wearing those, and it makes me feel invincible or something. You got the knee pads, so you can just kind of drop down whenever. I mean, it's just nice.
I mean, you're teeing him up for me tonight, dude.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
didn't mean to
all
tee
right,
that
yeah.
up like
What's going
that.
on here?
I was feeling like if you need to get a bait, out of a compartment or whatever, I
Sure,
mean, you
sure.
don't have to get down on one knee. You can just drop, and it doesn't hurt. Feels great. And they're just nice to
I
wear,
was
nice to have on.
I was gonna add, I always look forward to this once September hits, and October is like the big month for it. But like pumpkin spice lattes and yoga pants,
Come on.
freaking great! I always put them on and like go get
Great.
my pumpkin spice lattes.
You got a
Wait a
Starbucks up there?
Okay, I mean, to be honest too, like if we're talking about clothing in the fall, like it is nicer to wear a little roomier clothes. I mean,
Oh yeah.
like now that we're filming a
Yep.
lot of our fishing, like I don't need any bad angles of me, like when the wind's blowing into the sun shirt and you're just seeing that thing just perfectly in form. It's like I'd much rather be wearing bibs or a sweatshirt. Like I don't need to be seeing that angle, like we're good on that. So yeah, I think just bulking up a little bit, like Brian said, you just feel invincible out there. It's great.
Oh my god.
All right. Well, I think we should put a ball in this one. This has been a lot of fun. Guru, Tyler, thank you so much for coming on. We wish you the best of luck here as you continue to book some awesome guests for your podcast. It's been a real joy to listen to. Big fan. So
Thank you guys.
appreciate
Thank
you spending the time and doing that because it's awesome to just keep more cool shit to listen to and watch, and I love it.
Thank you guys for having me on. Your podcast is a source of inspiration for mine. You guys have been good friends of mine, and I definitely want to have you guys more on my podcast. I had Gus pretty early on, which Gus that one is still one of my best podcasts.
Let's go.
Yeah, buddy. And but I
Yeah.
really appreciate it, guys. Best of luck to you, and thanks for listening. And it's sometimes it can be hard doing the podcast thing. Maybe we can have a separate podcast on podcasting, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna still keep cranking them out
Podcastception.
for people. Yep, podcastception. People send me really nice notes, so I'm gonna keep doing it. And so that's been helping. People saying nice things keeps me going. So because it can be hard at times to figure out when to do it.
For sure. We really appreciate you putting out Not a Musky podcast more for everybody out there that hasn't heard. Please go check it out. Tyler puts that on, does a great job there. Thank you so much for coming on. We'll get you on again as well. You're definitely one of our top reoccurring guests. One of our original guests. We were looking back when we were saying having you on for the fourth time. Our first episode with you was on episode 11, which is actually our second guest ever. No, third.
Damn.
Out of our first
Hey.
11 episodes, you were the third ever guest that we had on. So we thank you for that. We had you on multiple times last year, have you on again now, and I know we're going to have you on again reoccurring throughout every season.
We'll do the
So we appreciate you.
podcastception when it gets a little too chilly outside.
Mhm.
Maybe December.
I'm in. Oh,
Oh yeah.
that's a good time.
Call it Not a Podcast.
Yeah. Not a podcast
That's
about
a good-
podcasts.
That's funny. I love that.
All right, Guru. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming on.
All right. Thanks, boys. Appreciate it.
All right, we can't thank Tyler Andrews enough for coming on here tonight on the podcast. Having him on was a blast. It was a treat. We've been really excited about his new launch of Not a Musky Podcast that he made back in, I want to say May, the spring of this year. We haven't had him on since, so it was kind of cool to talk about that and, see how that's going and it's been going well and talk about some of the fishing and excursions that he's been on and went through a lot of good stories and some pretty funny topics that we had there. I had a blast. I know we had a blast having him on as always. So if you haven't already, check out his podcast, Not a Musky Podcast. A lot of fun. They talk about not just muskies. So if you're looking to kind of branch out or on a road trip and you're out of musky podcast, but kind of want to talk or listen about musky fishing, but kind of not really, his is perfect for that. So
Yeah, always love having Tyler on the podcast. Always great to chat with him. He's a man of many stories, many tales. But yeah, other than that, just looking forward to getting out on the water next. I'm not entirely sure when that's going to be. Hoping to sneak out here in the metro before we have the PMTT World Championship coming up here towards the end of the month in Eagle River, Wisconsin. Going to be doing a lot of fishing over that time. So very, very excited for that. Definitely been on my mind. It's gonna be a lot of fun that week having everybody back up to Eagle River after a year off, I believe, not doing it in Eagle River for the PMTT. So be curious to see what all gets caught. I mean, Shane's been great this year. You put some really good fishermen on that body of water. Somebody's going to tie into some big fish. So, and
Mm-hmm.
I will say, I do want to really quickly mention last week we did have a little bit of the live scope discussion. I did have a few people kind of reach out that in a really nice way and just kind of maybe gave me a little extra shove on the maybe more severity of the topic to not underplay it as much. So I recognize that I kind of walked back a little bit of my apathy towards the conversation. I think it was more just being exhausted by the debate as much as how I actually feel about it. So I would say at least my opinion on it's kind of ever evolving, and I feel like a lot of other people's that I've been talking to are kind of starting to also change and evolve on the live scope topic. I mean, I had a very lengthy conversation with our friend Jeremy Barber on the phone about it. Would actually be kind of funny to get him on and copy and paste that conversation right onto a podcast because there's just loaded with some gems. But he brought up a lot of really good points. Just about the use of it not only with musky fishing but outside of that in pan fishing and the resource we have in northern Wisconsin and the small lakes we have. I think there is a conversation to be had about it. So maybe in the future, we'll have maybe some more intelligent minds come on and discuss it or chat about it. Because I'm always willing to listen to people's perspective, whether they're for it or
Mm-hmm.
against it. Just always kind of curious to hear how people are thinking about the matter because I do think it is a very hot topic is I guess what you could call it, but I think it is a pretty large discussion that probably does need to be had at some point in time on just where the future is going with technology and fishing. So just wanted to
Yeah.
talk about that real quick.
No, good call on that. Yeah, I don't, yeah, like Max said, didn't want it to sound like we were downplaying anything or whatever. We just haven't discussed it much here on this podcast. Not that we're trying to like tippy toe around it at all. I mean, like we're stating the facts, and if anybody's been out on a guide trip with me knows that I don't heavily rely on it or whatever and use it a whole lot. I mean, we use it here and there, and we have our ways that we like to use it, and we try, as always, to be as, you know, put ethics in mind always, and the fish in mind always first. Um, but yeah, just talking about it maybe more here and there to just get more information on it is always better. Just kind of like how we discussed at the beginning with Tyler about the stuff that he's mentioned with or had on the podcast, the Dr. Bob guy, about just musky fishing in general with hot water topics and all that stuff. So,
Yeah, it's
um,
like I'm not, when I bring that up, like even talking with Tyler, it's not like I'm advocating to go and fish in hot water. Like that is not what I'm
yeah,
trying to get out at all.
right.
It's just more or less like, hey, like where's the line? Like what's real here? That's kind of what I was just trying to get to the bottom of with
Hmm.
the hot water stuff. And I think that kind of goes with live scoping too. It's like there's just so much gray area in how people are using the technology. It's like it's kind of hard to pin down the argument because like you're saying
Hmm.
the way you use it, it's like, is it really that unethical? Like, are we really catching more fish because of it? And then you hear stories about people, catching 6, 7+ fish a day in on open water and big fish. And it's interesting how it kind of, yeah, I don't know. It's a big discussion. I think that we'll probably, after we give it some more thought, have. But I will say that, like I said, my opinion on it has continued to evolve, and I'm like I said, open to hearing other people's opinions on it.
For sure.
Always. So yeah.
Yeah, anybody that's been full circle on it that maybe has never used it and then newly used it and maybe used it wrong and then has full circled back to like, whoa, we need to chill out on this technology, or maybe people that use it from the start and we're like, all right, there's an overhype on this or what? Because yeah, there's definitely more to it than just put it in the water, go around and look for fish for sure. I mean, the bass industry is a whole can of worms that we barely even touched on. Not that we need to really much at all. Just the fact that it was that they started to kind of ban it or decrease it in a sense where you can't have as many units, blah blah blah. So um yeah, just want to talk that over for sure. But overall, let's talk about the Northwoods. I'd say uh don't really need that stuff because a lot of fish are pretty shallow, to be honest. Mainly finding them in the best weeds you can find. I mean, most of the places I've been to this year have been holding very good weeds till now, and I think they will until, I mean, pretty much ice up. It happens a lot. You will see a little bit of some weeds turning brown and getting slimy and a little bit gross. Not always my favorite to look for. You can still sometimes find fish out of that. Cover is cover for them, but the greener the cabbage, the greener the weeds, the better. It's kind of hovering around that 70-degree mark. We're having some warm days, but we're still getting cooler nights. And if we have a lot of wind, it mixes up pretty well. Recently I've seen as low as 64 in the mornings, and I've seen as high as 72. So the fluctuations have been a little bit heavy with some of those cold fronts and warm ups. Uh, Unfortunately, I thought, I mean, there's definitely fish caught plenty everywhere. I personally thought that cold front was going to be better. I actually think it was so severe and dramatic that it did put a shock on a lot of fish, and your lake choice was very, very important. And that needed to be made a little bit better. I think some of those really small lakes saw a temperature swing in a day and a half period that were a little bit much for the muskies to want to feed, put them in a funk, and a few of them actually even pushed out deeper, and I don't think they really did a whole lot when they're out there. Maybe if you found some active ones, you could tie into them, but I think the stable weather is now helping. And if we get more of like a slight cool down and some rain and some cloud cover, and I think that should bring a lot better fishing. But um, if you're fishing multiple people out of the boat, bucktail, it's got to be out there, some sort of spinner. Um, Spinner baits have been good too. We've had a good amount of success on those this late summer, rolling into early fall. But blades is kind of just tough to beat. Gotta play around with blade size. I've seen anything as much as double tens down to single blades be working. So that's a day-to-day basis for sure. Once you find a pattern, stick to that. But the playbook on old September fishing is go shallow, and if you're not marking any bait deep or really not marking any fish deep and barely marking them on the weed edges, a lot of times they're hunkered in pretty shallow, and definitely need baits like topwater and bucktails to get them out there unless you're using like a rising up minnow bait, or diving rise can be very, very good if they're not moving on bucktails. That's my next up, is going to like a Suick or Navin or a slammer or something like that, some sort of minnow bait. And yeah, I don't know. I'm just looking forward to it. Fall fishing's fun. We got, sucker fishing on the horizon. I mean, I've already heard some people using some. You can get some if you feel like it. I think it's just kind of a personal preference. If you want to spend the 10 to 15 bucks and have a shot at a fish, go for it. But just know that with the warmer temps here, those suckers are going to die a lot quicker. Not saying you can't do it, but just also be sure, if you are sucker fishing, please set the hook very fast. I've seen more times than ever pre-turnover, and even sometimes post-turnover, these fish can turn around and really take in a sucker and eat them really quickly if that water temp is over 50 degrees. Um, or even, yeah, just if it's warmer than that and it's pre-turnover, set the hook very, very, very quickly. They make the quick strike rig for a reason. If you're gonna sucker fish, don't do the, bobber goes down and rip two cigs before you set the hook, as they used to do back in the day. Um, so
Good
just
advice.
putting an FYI on that. for those going out and using suckers. But otherwise, the casting bite's going to be great. For a whole, it's September 10th. It's going to be great for a whole another month at least. And I know even last year we got some action casting and caught some in November. So never rule it out. Definitely works. Artificials work.
Absolutely. Well, Gus, do you want to just kind of take us away here with some of your information, and then we'll let Brian send us on our way.
Yeah, for sure. As always, you can reach us and find us at Muskies on Tap on Instagram, and then you can also find my guide service, which is Suggs Fishing on Instagram, or Suggs Fishing Guide Service on Facebook. It's SUGS. Suggs comes from, or the word Sug comes from my name spelled backward, GUSSUG, old nickname of mine. And you can also find my webpage, which is www.suggsfishing.com, with all my information on there if you want to get in touch with me and my cell phone and all that stuff. Other than that, and availability this fall, I'll probably be making a post pretty shortly on what I got left. I have a couple days to squeeze in here in September. But October, I still have a good amount of dates. The ones around the full and new moons are booking very quickly. I think I just locked in most of them, so that'll be a little harder to find. But if you're a diehard and really want to get out there late, November, give me a call. If the water's still open, I'm gonna be still going out there. So if weather's shaping up and all that stuff, that's the best shot at getting a very heavy fish. You've a good shot at catching a long fish any time of the year, but catching your heaviest fish easily is late October and early November or mid-November, whenever ice up is. So we'll see what it is this year. You never know. Last year was anywhere between small lakes in mid-November or some of the big lakes in end of December. So it was kind of a anomaly year. We'll see what happens this year. So with that being said, Brian, take us away.
All right, everybody. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Muskies on Tap. Shout out to Tyler Andrews for coming on this episode, or as Gus calls him, Andrew Tyler. Let's get into fall fishing here coming up, guys. It's going to be quite the next couple of months here as we choke the life out of this muskie season before next thing you know, you wake up, there's this thin coat of ice on the water. But first, got to get to the leaves changes, some beautiful sights and sounds coming up. Football's in the air. Smell of those burning leaves and the grill on and all that good stuff and
Jesus.
I'll let Tyler do the ASMR skit on his pod. Make sure to show his pod. Thanks.